Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're not just looking at a biography. We're trying to dissect a kind of career blueprint, a blueprint for really unprecedented global influence. We are diving deep into the strategic mindset of Jim Hagemann Snabe.
Yeah, and when you look at his resume, it's like a map of the global economy's most critical points.
It really is. I mean, he sits right at the nexus of technology, heavy industry, logistics, global governance, you name it.
Right.
So our mission today is to get past the titles. We really want to understand the expertise he built up at SAP, how he used that for crisis management, and, what kind of skills allow one person to lead organizations as different as Siemens and Maersk.
And that synthesis is really the core of what we're doing today. The sources we have are powerful. They don't just list what he did, they give us his specific commentary, his strategic thinking. So we're connecting the dots from his past in enterprise software to his current role as an architect of, well, industrial transformation.
Okay, so let's unpack this blueprint. And I think we have to start with the sheer scope of his current board positions. The level of trust here it's just staggering.
It truly is. I mean, think about the geography alone. In Europe, he's the chairman of the supervisory board of Siemens AG in Germany.
A foundational company, electrification, digitalization.
Exactly. And until very recently, he was also vice chairman of Allianz SE, a global finance giant, and the chairman of AP Moller Maersk.
So that's heavy industry, finance, and global trade, all in one portfolio.
And that's not even counting the high-tech, sort of forward-looking roles. He's on the board of C3 on AI in the U.S., which is a major enterprise AI provider.
Right. The forward momentum is key here.
It is. And it just continues. I mean, look at the recent appointments we found. He's joining the board of Temasek.
The Singaporean state investment company. Massive.
Huge. That's January 2025. And then Bloom Energy, a leading fuel cell company, starting August 2025. It seems like when global capital and green energy need a guide, they turn to him.
I wonder if that model is just inherently tied to sustainability now. You mentioned Bloom Energy, and it makes me think of his recent chairmanship of Northvolt.
Absolutely. From late 2022 to early 2024, he was chairing Northvolt. And they are all about green battery production built on a circular value chain.
So it's not just governance for the sake of governance.
No, not at all. It's applying strategic oversight to these massive, high-risk, sustainable transformation projects. His expertise feels almost tailor-made for guiding companies through that pivot.
It's clear he's shaping companies, but he also spends a lot of time shaping the rules and the policy that they operate in. His advisory roles are a big part of this.
Right. If you connect this to the bigger picture, his influence goes way beyond just the corporate world. For over 11 years, he's been a member of the Board of Trustees at the World Economic Forum.
So he's helping set the global agenda.
He's in the room where those conversations happen. And then there's the European Innovation Council, the EIC. The EIC is crucial for Europe's tech scene. He served as an EIC ambassador and helped shape their advisory boards between 2016 and 2018. He was basically guiding how the EU allocated billions toward breakthrough tech.
That really sets the scale of his influence. But to understand the blueprint, we have to go from that macro governance down to the foundation.
The SAP years.
The SAP years. His decades-long immersion in enterprise technology. This wasn't a quick stop.
Oh.
He started as a trainee at SAP AG back in 1990, climbed the ladder, took a detour to IBM for a couple of years in the mid-90s.
Which is an interesting move, getting that external perspective.
Right. Then he comes back to SAP and climbs all the way to the top. Co-CEO alongside Bill McDermott from 2010 to 2014. And that was an era that, it fundamentally redefined the company.
And what really defines that era for him, I think, is how his strategic thinking matured under, extreme pressure. We have a great source that gives us a window into his thinking right after the 2008 financial crisis.
So what was the biggest challenge he saw for businesses during that time?
It was the speed of contagion. He said that globalization and real-time connectivity had just removed all predictability.
The dominoes fell instantly.
Instantly and brutally. Companies were facing this insane uncertainty. Supply chains, demand, financing, everything was up in the air. The reaction was, panic and just slashing costs everywhere. And Snabe's team realized companies didn't want big, new, shiny IT projects. They wanted stability. They wanted efficiency. Now,
lower total cost of ownership, or TCO. That's always the big one.
Exactly. Reduce TCO for their existing IT.
So how does that pressure turn into a product strategy for a company like SAP? You can't just tell your customers to spend less money.
You can't. So they pivoted. They started strongly positioning their analytical capabilities. This is where it gets really interesting strategically. SAP had acquired business objects.
A powerful analytics tool set.
Right, but it was kind of a separate product.
Mm-hmm.
His team championed the effort to pre-integrate that tool set right into the core SAP system.
Why was that integration so critical at that specific moment in time?
Because the application silos were just killing efficiency.
Yeah.
Large companies had dozens, sometimes hundreds, of different software systems that didn't talk to each other.
So you had no single version of the truth.
None. And when a crisis hits, you need that truth instantly. You need to know your cash flow, your inventory, your supplier risk right now, not next week.
Okay.
So launching Business Suite 7 built on a consistent architecture was about smashing those silos. By pre-integrating the analytics, they were essentially delivering predictability in an unpredictable market.
So it wasn't just a tech upgrade. It was a crisis response tool sold as software.
That's a perfect way to put it.
That's a deep insight.
Yeah.
But the other half of that was the rapid deployment model, right?
Yeah.
That speaks to the customer's need for an immediate return.
Precisely. They knew that companies couldn't afford a multi-year project during a recession. So his solution was, frankly, brilliant. They broke the suite down into smaller, affordable, prepackaged chunks. The source material mentions around 25 different packages. But the key, the real differentiator, was the promise to get them configured and running for the customer in 90 days or less.
90 days. That completely changes the risk calculation for a buyer.
It does. It goes from a multi-million-dollar, multi-year gamble to a 90-day investment with a fast, measurable return. That ability to translate global chaos into a tactical product strategy, that's his operational skill.
And that skill set got applied almost immediately to the next huge wave, mobile.
The mobile explosion, yes.
Let's shift there. He clearly saw the opportunity, especially in places like India, which he cited as adding more than 8 million users every month. Enterprise IT couldn't just ignore that.
No, but for the enterprise, mobile wasn't a simple trend. It was a complete nightmare of complexity. Snabe identified 3 massive challenges.
Which were?
Okay, so first, security. Obvious one. Mobile devices create all these new vulnerabilities. Second, mass updates. How do you securely push a critical software update to thousands of devices around the world? And third, device fragmentation. The models were changing every month. You had BlackBerry, iPhone, Android, all with different operating systems. You needed a rock-solid back-end to manage that chaos.
So trying to cram a desktop ERP system onto a tiny screen was never going to work. What was the compromise?
They went for simplicity. High-value transactions. They focused on partnerships, like with RIM for BlackBerry and Sybase for iPhone, to deliver really specific, simple apps.
Like what? An expense report?
Exactly. Checking an expense report, a quick approval, simple inventory check. The idea was to mobilize the decisions, not the data entry. Use the phone as an accelerator, not a replacement.
And that leads right into his geographical strategy, because that willingness to adopt simplicity was not the same everywhere.
No, it wasn't. And his Asia insight is fascinating. It really dictated their deployment strategy.
What was the insight?
He observed that companies in Asia were, in his words, more willing to adopt the best practices that were embedded in the software.
As opposed to
other regions, in Europe or North America, that he felt would discuss endlessly about customizing everything to fit their old, maybe inefficient ways of doing things.
So in Asia, they found customers who were ready for those prepackaged, standardized solutions.
They did. And they capitalized on it with these scaled-down versions of the business suite, they called it, all-in-one. And because customers were open to the standardized best practices, these rapid implementations just took off in Asia way faster than anywhere else.
Which proves that sometimes standardized efficiency is more valuable than custom work.
I think so. And it's important to remember, this isn't just corporate war stories. This is structured knowledge. He's been an adjunct professor at Copenhagen Business School since 2016, teaching these very principles.
That career arc really brings us full circle from the details of ERP systems all the way to academia and now these macro governance roles. And it all seems tied together by a consistent philosophy, which we can see in his books.
Exactly. His books kind of formalize the approach he's now applying at places like Siemens.
Right. He's very focused on guiding the digital transformation of business and society, always with this goal of a better and more sustainable future.
And you see that in his 2 co-authored books. The first, Dreams and Details, is about leadership during times of huge change. But it's the second one, Tech for Life. That's the real bridge to what he's doing now.
How so?
Because it's all about putting trust back in technology as a force for good.
So this is the synthesis point. How does that foundational knowledge from SAP, the obsession with consistent architecture, real-time data, how does that apply to governing a giant like Siemens or Maersk?
It's about taking the lessons of digital architecture and applying them to industrial challenges. At SAP, he was making sure data was consistent across, say, procurement and finance.
Right, breaking down silos.
Now at Siemens, he's ensuring that the operational technology, the actual machines, the infrastructure, is seamlessly integrated with the information technology. That's what digital transformation is in heavy industry.
Using IoT and analytics to make the physical world more efficient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Predictive maintenance, energy efficiency, making the physical world function with the predictability he fought for in the software world. Or take Maersk's decarbonization efforts. That's a massive technological governance problem. You're managing a transition to new fuels, using AI to optimize routes. It's like he moved from governing software to governing the application to software to solve the climate crisis in logistics. His whole career is about governing complexity through integration.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? I think the key takeaway is that the model of a modern global leader has changed. It's not enough to be an expert in just finance or just logistics.
No, you have to have this unparalleled capacity to govern change by understanding the fundamental architecture of complexity.
Whether that complexity is in software code or a global shipping fleet.
Exactly. It's that synthesis of deep expertise in one field, in his case, IT architecture, and the ability to lift those principles to govern transformation in totally different sectors. He sees transformation as an architectural challenge, no matter the industry.
And here is the final thought for you to chew on, connecting his earliest tactics to his largest roles today. If Snabe's whole thing in Tech for Life is about putting trust back in technology, think about how that started. The rapid integration of analytical tools like business objects at SAP, that was all about creating predictability and trust inside a company during a crisis. So the question is, how does that same principle of data-driven stability and trust translate and scale to the massive sustainability efforts of a Siemens or a Bloom Energy today?
That foundational efficiency, born from data, becomes the building block for macro-level environmental sustainability. It's a very compelling link.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this has given you a blueprint for understanding global influence. We'll see you next time.